Right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Grenada Matters with my co-hosts, Denis Charles and Hudson George. How are we doing, gentlemen?
I'm doing so fine. I can't
Good. I'm good.
Okay, so Denis, how are we doing?
Well, everything is good here in Atlanta. It's historic. The weekend of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as you know, trailblazer for civil rights and opportunities, equal opportunities for us. But not only here in the United States, I think he blazed a trail for people of color and just about everybody, humanity worldwide.
So what was it? Tell us the sort of things that you saw at this event.
Yes, well, first I did a little historic. I had to go back in history and talk about where we came from. Because if we have no clue and we don't teach our children about our past, the future will be very difficult. We don't know
Absolutely.
So looking back at the time of the 50s and 60s and so forth, and even if you go back before, opportunities were not there for us. We were brought here pretty much to do menial jobs, to sit at the back of the bus, pretty much pick cotton, cut sugar cane, and grow tobacco. No education. We were not supposed to be educated or have the word or become learned and so forth. So every obstacle was placed in our way in terms of social progress, economic progress, and all of that. The banking system, redlining, and all of that. We couldn't live in certain neighborhoods. We were not supposed to hold certain positions, discrimination, and so forth. It was really, really, really hard for us. And the only way we really we were able to break free at that time, it was because of our faith. Back then, the churches were not churches for profit. Back then, the churches were places where you go, you get enlightened, you get uplifted. They had a plan. They had a plan. They executed that plan. That was before the advent of prosperity gospel. That flipped the switch on the black man and the black woman. Instead of moving forward, we moved backward. The pastors and the bishop moved forward. Private jet, mega houses, Rolls Royce, Bentleys. The more you give, the more you will receive, because the Lord loves when you give, but he wouldn't live in your community. You buy those big mansions far away, the children wouldn't go in the schools that your kids go in. I mean, it's a big fraud, but that is what it has come to after the demise of Dr. Martin Luther King. They did not blaze the trail for that. It's a ripoff going on, and it's shameful. But at the beginning, it was genuine. They stood up to water cannon. They marched, holding hands or arms, and they faced dogs let loose on them. They got beaten with sticks, bloodied up, and put in jail. Most of them are dead broke. Others who have made it had to support them and the children and whatever, give them little, not like what we have now with these mega churches preaching faith, buying 65 million private jets, and they wouldn't do. There is one guy, I live in Atlanta down here, not far. He wouldn't even drive on the road so his car could go in a pothole.
You're in the land of Creflo Dollar.
Okay, well, I didn't want to call. So what those guys do, they come into church by private helicopter. They are too good to get a little shake up in a car when you hit a bump or a pothole. And then from the grounds of the church, a Mercedes-Benz or probably a Rolls Royce would drive to collect them after they, leave the plane. and just across it, they could walk and get a little exercise, increase your heart rate or something, and drive them to the church to preach. Now they preach inside of the churches. They have ATM machines. So you got to go pull that money out and give him his 10%. You understand? And if you pray on the less, I don't want to use the word educated, that's a bad word. I would say the less learned and the vulnerable, those in dire straits, of course. And if you tell them the more they give, the more they love it, of course they're going to give you what they don't even have. They can't pay the bills. They cannot pay, so they're waiting on a miracle instead of executing a plan to move forward. They keep dreaming. And as I said, we have been dreaming for a long time. It is time to get up and act.
You see, the churches back then didn't care about the political standing of it, but they would go out and they would speak about political situations and they'd stand together. These pastors and preachers, if you're talking about these times and talking about certain people in power, what's going on, how you can stand up for your race and your people, that's a problem. They don't want that, because that puts them on the hot seat and it puts them having to deal with a situation right there as well.
Yes.
You see, so that's a problem. And and they won't preach on those topics. When you preach prosperity, you don't preach about the things in the community that hurt the community, the things that poison the community, and therefore the message is meant to be the good news, which is meant to heal the community and move the community forward and bring the people forward. But where can you go if you're a person of color and you're looking for some sort of place? The church originally back then was a place of rest. It was a safe house. It was a safe house because to be of a person of faith at that time, you got persecuted for it. So you need to go somewhere safe, somewhere where you could be understood, somewhere where there were people that looked like you, some of the people that was going through similar troubles to you, and you all came together in a congregation, and you were inspired by a leader who himself was being persecuted, but himself was prepared, or herself was prepared to go out and fight on the front lines. That was what it was about. And pay the price. That is what it was about.
Yeah. What
we have today is an abomination in comparison. You talk about false gods and false prophets, people focusing on things. Listen, a man still has to eat, and a man, when he does work, needs to be paid. I understand that principle. But, you know, when you're teaching what you should be able to do, what you're teaching, everyone else in your congregation, should they be listening, should also be prosperous as well. Do you understand? They should all be prosperous or get into that prosperity.
Yeah.
But you see,
it should. The church should really be set up like a social enterprise. What they put in is what they get in is what they put a piece back to the people, and those who look after those people who actually want to look after themselves. Because of course, more people that are working, more people that are educated, the better jobs they have, surely they're going to be able to give better tithes and offerings anyway. But if you've got a better community of people, then everyone benefits from it, rather than the guy at the top benefiting and his family and everyone else suffering.
Exactly.
That makes sense. But maybe it's just me.
But what happened with the church today is that in the church was always occupy a space alongside the government. So they were partners.
Well, at one point, the church themselves, the government took back power, but the church had the power at one point.
Yeah, they had the power. But
exactly.
What the church was, for instance, France, Spain, Portugal, these are Catholic countries. So when they send out the discoverers or pirates, or you call them, they come back and they say, okay, I discovered this and I discover that in the name of the king and queen of those countries those days. But the kings and kings of those countries those days were Roman Catholic. So
it still baffles me how people can discover. People say they discovered something when people are already inhabiting the land. That never made sense to me.
Well, they didn't really discover, but that was what he was saying. So what they do now, the Pope work was to.
Christopher Columbus was a fraud. I just want to say that because
he was a fraud.
They can't discover anything.
But what the Pope work was to divide the world. What west of the Azores belongs to Portugal, and what so belongs to France. So France took some colonies. Spain took some, and Portugal took some, and then France came in after. But still, the Pope get his share because this country are predominantly Catholic. Then the British came like a renegade because the British, Henry VIII broke away from the Catholic Church because he wanted to marry.
The Anglican Church came into being.
Yeah, so what he did, when he sent his pirate out, they take it in the name of the Queen and King of England.
Exactly.
And that's where the shift take place. But now, after the post-slave period, what we have now is men going to university and study theology. And also they build schools for that now. So if you're charismatic, you go study theology, mix up with psychology, philosophy, and sociology.
Yeah.
And then you arm yourself, you're doctor of this, that, and you pay up on the poor people. For instance, T.D. Jakes' daughter make a child at 14 or 15 years. And he said he's a man of God. How he couldn't see that his daughter was sexually active and have a kid before she reached 16 years. The police once had to go to Creflo Dollar house.
Creflo's house, because he always trying to beat his daughter.
He beat his daughter. So he was beating his daughter. So these guys and them, they just have a group of people following them and they're ripping off them, but they can't even control their home.
Now, here's something you might not know. The networks that these people are on, there is I think they call it a blood contract. It could be true, but what I understand of this blood contract is that they must do what is in that contract, and they cannot talk about anything that is not on that contract. You understand? So they have to toe the line. If they start talking about stuff that's not in line with that blood contract, they're off the air.
It seems correct what you have said, because listen, I have been asking myself, right? If you study a little history and you know where we came from, why is it we as a people here, let's say in the New World, let's call it the New World, the United States or the Caribbean, whatever it is, right? Why is it, for instance, we don't have in school one African language taught to us? Forget English, Spanish, French. Why don't we learn Swahili? Why is it we don't know our history? Last week, we talked about Kemetic mythology and all of that. West Asia, because there was nothing called the Middle East, that didn't exist, right? It was West Asia, or if you want to say Northeast Africa, because at one point in time, the pharaohs controlled that whole region, you know, and it could go as far as India. There were blacks in India a lot of years ago, even in China. But we're not going to talk about that today.
Well, they'd have to be there because the original man. So the original man would have been everywhere.
The original. But you see, what happened is when your mind is stolen from you. First of all, they took your language. They changed your name, so you become. My parents are not. They were not born in France or England, but Charles. You understand? So whatever name, African sounding name, that they dropped that, and you couldn't even speak in your own native tongue, right? And so you become Europeanized, Westernized. But something else a lot of people don't know. It was by design.
Of course.
As Hudson mentioned, when Spain and Portugal they were going at it, and they've been going at it at a long time ago, way before this so-called Columbus and all that, right? It was the Pope. It was the Pope who said, guys, come on. Let us settle this whole thing now. All right? You take this half over here, and I take this, so you divide all of that. But ultimately, you pay homage to who? The Holy Father. He sits at the top of the pyramid. So yes, France could conquer colonies and all of that. And Spain, as I said, England came after and all of that. But still, the man in charge was the Roman Empire, right?
Well, you got to supply him with gold.
Well, yeah. Well, you go to the Vatican. It's a very place. If you look at it, almost every country who could afford, they have an ambassador to the papacy. That is not just about religion. That is about politics, geopolitics. That is what we call hegemony. This is empire building. So, one, they came to the New World, let us call it that, 3 C's, right? Colonize. The other C, to Christianize.
Or convert.
That's a big C. But in the dirtiest C in all of them is to civilize. And before you go, I'm going to go further. I'm going to tell you about this butcher in the Congo.
Okay.
King Leopold.
Tell me about him.
12 million Africans. Who he didn't kill? He maimed. Who he didn't maim? He poisoned. If you think what the Americans did to the natives, the Indians we call them, but the natives, the red man, here in this country is bad, you ain't hear nothing yet. Go read about what Leopold did in the Congo to fellow Africans. He killed more people than Hitler. He destroyed, because the Congo is the richest spot in Africa, on earth, in terms of minerals. And at the same time, being that wealthy, they are the poorest country on earth by design. They don't teach you history. And there is a reason why they won't teach you history. They don't want you to be, knowledgeable of your past. They don't want you to know who you are, where you came from. So our thought process has been Europeanized. Another word, colonized.
Well,
okay?
if you don't know what you were, you don't. If let's say, for example, if you see, if every, like, for example, as a young person growing up, you will see images of a white guy in a cape flying, white person flying. That's what you see, but you never see your own self doing that. You will never amount to thinking you can be that. But if you saw that same image of yourself doing that, wow, he did it, I can do it. So then your mindset vibrates to that level. So imagine we walk the earth like a god, like gods. Imagine we work when I say imagine, picture that, us walking the earth like gods. And then we looking back and going, wow, we walk the earth like gods. Why are we sitting around here doing this nonsense? We should be trying to get back to what we were doing back then as gods, as kings and queens. How are we going to get back to that? What are we going to do now to get back there? Because surely they look like us. But if you're always thinking of every time you see the past is you're slaves and you're criminals and you're no good and you're 2/3 or 1/3 of a human being, and if you've got all that as a history, what hope can you have for the future when you're looking back at that stuff? But when you start seeing greatness, when you look back and you see greatness, then you've got no choice but to be great yourself. And that's the thing. That's why I say we don't read, we don't study, we don't want to listen, but we're very fast to listen to people who don't have our best interests at heart.
But the point is
that is the case. Go ahead, Hudson.
We were partly educated. You see what happened? Blacks does not know that you were colonized by 2 groups of people, and then you colonize or teach you one side of the history. So the Arabs came to Africa and before the European, and then he colonized the African to his religion, and then when the European came, they colonized the people to the religion too. So some of us in the West, when we understand what happened to us by the European, then we go over to the Arab. We didn't study what the Arab did to. So we keep moving. Now the best teacher of Black history for me, and I was lucky to see that man face to face in physical, Dr. John Henry Clark. He explained it fully how they divide us.
Dr. Ray Higgins, he's not behind back, you know. I follow him, and Dr. Joachim and a few more.
You know one called Barry Shango?
No, I don't know this one.
And Van Satima. Van Satima is Guyanese. He died the other day. He knew a lot too. Benny Akanam. But for me, Dr. Henry Clark is my best teacher.
Benny Akanam is one I watch a lot as well.
Furthermore, there is a group on Facebook that is Dr. Henry Clark's site. When I do things, I put it there. I put even the last live we did on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is good. Well, you know.
And another thing they do to us too. You talk about the Pharaohs and the Middle East. There is nowhere called Europe. Europe is Asia. But the people who call themselves European was the lighter ones, the lighter skins one. But they are Asian. It's Caucasian. Caucasian.
There were no the Caucasus of the Caucasians from the
Caucasus Mountain. Yeah. So when I say European, they call themselves European. Caucasian is as you say, Caucasus Mountain Asian.
Yes. Yeah. So you look at it, we could laugh and all of that, but the thing is, we have a short window of time to educate. And the most powerful weapon a man can use for liberation is education. Nelson Mandela said something to that effect, the power of the mind. But when you don't know, and sometimes you don't even know that you don't know, you cannot go forward. It's like chasing a blackbird on a dark night. So I always try to do my best to read first thing in the morning. All day I'm in something running. At night before I go to bed, every day you should improve, empower yourself with knowledge. So when you speak, people listen. They made me stand up and do impromptu. I had nothing planned in front of these doctors and all of them, big folks. They recording me, and I just had to deliver. I thought something like that would happen, The only thing is I couldn't videotape myself, but I could get it from one of them. But the point I'm trying to make is empower. Knowledge is power. Now, if you turn that now to what is going on in Grenada, what is going on to is the same thing Kit Mitchell is doing down there. You keep fooling people, you keep lying to people, blindsiding them. You wouldn't come and tell them the truth. Okay, I got the money from here. I sold this amount of passport. I put the money there, or whatever it is. Nothing. Absolutely. Just go out again and just keep fooling. I mean, we are doing it to ourselves too. I mean, so yes, the other people, they are taking advantage of us. They send, not saviors, not folks like Dr. Martin Luther King. They send these predators to our communities, right? And they prey on the poor. There is one guy in Africa. You should see the slum where most of his followers came from. I think he's the richest in all of them. That man have cars that cost more than houses. When he walks the street, they have to bow. They can't touch him. They have to bow and make space for him to go. He's ordained and he's anointed. He make them go to the bank and take loans of faith, give to him, and then they have to pay it back to the bank just to get blessings if they want to go to the promised land. You hear monkey business? And all our people fall for that. You go on Church Avenue in Brooklyn, instead of seeing places where people manufacture stuff, whether it's fruits from the Caribbean and make whatever to sell, or clothes for us, by us, we buy our own clothing. We could put, you know, the Grenada color, the Jamaica color, whatever industries. No. In our community, go up north, liquor store, lotto. 2 blocks again, liquor store, lotto. I mean, all day, want to line up the jackpot, you know, the 3 numbers, they pull in, liquor store and lotto. That costs over $10,000 a year from us in the Black community. In lotto and drinking booze. They give us booze. But you know what? They wouldn't educate us to move us from point A to point B, to understand financial literacy, how to invest, how to leverage money, how to build capital, how to avoid one of the biggest problems in our community, our overexposure to taxation. We pay tax on everything. But Donald Trump knows how not to pay tax. $750 last year or year before. So we remain so uneducated, so uninformed, to our detriment. So as I said, I'll be on another platform in New York, doing the best I could. There is a need, but we have to get rid of our people for falling for all these crooks who preach the Holy Ghost and then they speak in tongues. They speak in tongues. Tell them go cure Corona or COVID-19. Go in the hospital, and for that matter, all the trucks lined up. California just ordered 35,000 body bags for dead people, right? And now we have another, I think, 2 mutations. Yeah, 1 is here, or maybe 2. I think they might be here, but at least 1 is here. Let them go in the morgue and raise the dead. You have faith. Lazarus, get up. You, pastor or bishop, go in the nursing home there with all the sick people. Get corona out of somebody's body. You and the Lord. Speak in tongues and talk to the Holy Ghost. They're not going. They're not going. But hear what? When you go to church, make sure, and before you join the church too, you're going to bring your W-2. You're going to supply them with your tax return. You ain't joining just so. And if you don't have money on you, go to the ATM and take that 10% and bring it come. And then he go, you know, on his private jet, $65 million. I mean, I don't know when Black people are going to wake up. What has that done for us? And why is it still falling for that?
What they're doing now is the Toronto Star newspaper had an article about that. They're warning people who have the elders in nursing home, like old age home, nursing home.
Mm.
They tell people you must go and visit your elder parent or aunt or granduncle more regular. Because these church people, they allow them to go to those nursing homes.
Sign of
and then they befriend the elders. And after they catch the elders' trust, they ask them how regular the former leaders visit. And if the family was a little bit negligent, they want to come in regular enough, these church people get closer to these elder people and they ask them about the property. And then they make them sign paper, and when they die, when they formally go to collect them, they were not in charge of these people again. When they go, they say, who in charge? A pastor or a priest? So if the people have a house or money in land in the bank, they get it. Right in Toronto, Canada.
So there's a comment. We've got a comment that's come up here from Melinda Duncan. Says, if you really want to contribute done, you Grenada, GD matters. Instead, use love for country. Let's see what the second comment is.
Melinda Duncan?
Yeah, start with basic, forget racial politics, color, done matter.
I am not someone who race bait or believe in color. So probably I could address it that way and kind of rephrase the thrust of our conversation. So nobody's going to get it out of context. We are not focusing on a white person do this or white person do that. We mentioned people in our community who have been exploiting our people for a long time. We contrasted that with the efforts of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. back in the day, when it was all about community building. So we are not here lambasting one group over another group or whatever it is. We just state facts, represent history. So this is black and white.
I think we have to be careful with these sort of people because they have a tendency to come in and divert a conversation. That's
they just
typical.
change it in a different way.
Yeah. Let's keep focusing on where we're at. Let's focus on where we are. So, Hudson.
Yeah, well, another thing again, these people feed on their social resources that those people exploit. Like, based on Christianity, abortion is wrong, the same-sex people is wrong, and so they talk about that. And then in black community, this is things that most black people, they don't accept some of those deviants. So the pastors in the black community, they get stipend from right-wing conservative parties and business people, food banks, this, that. And then they campaign with that, and they get people to vote for the right-wing parties. For example, in Canada, we had a prime minister, I think, and make either two terms or 3 terms. I don't want to lie, but he made more than 2. He made more than 1. I think he made 2 terms. Stephen Harper, and Stephen Harper was a young conservative prime minister, very calm. He was not a flamboyant guy, but he was able to somehow his administration was able to mobilize a lot of black pastors. And the thing with the black pastors, you might hear they say Church of God or whatever is the new revival, new thing. All this religion, they belongs to a popular pastor. They don't belong to a broad organization. For instance, I know one pastor who had 2 churches in Toronto. And then his daughter married to somebody in the church. And then the church, his nephew-in-law took part of a church too. So it's more like a business.
It's a business. But the ordinary man and woman out there in our community don't realize it's an acting business. They preach, they get the Holy Ghost. Then, well, after you finish, I'll tell you some of it.
Okay, you guys could Google down a church in Toronto called Prayer Palace. You could write it down, and after we're done, Google it. It's close to Finch and the 400. Helicopters could land on it. Helicopters could land. That church was created by a man and his 2 sons. right? And 90% of the churchgoers were Caribbean blacks. In the end, the first church they had was on Jane Street, south of Wilson, north of Church Street. After they built the first church and the 401 passed by there, they built high-rise apartment to put the pensioners in it. So they were the believers who become pensioners were living in this high-rise building in the first prayer palace on Jane and south of Wilson. So when they get too big now, the church have too much people. They build a new one on Finch and the 400, and they sold the church on Jane and south of Wilson to a Pentecostal denomination. They sold it to Pentecostal, but they didn't sell it to apartment building. You get my politics? They built a bigger church on the 400. I didn't want to tell you, helicopter could land on it. So they sold the first church to a Pentecostal faith. They kept the two high-rise apartments. The high-rise apartment could be about 14 stories high, 14, 15 stories high, two. So they have the members who all living in. So they're getting that old age pension money from its son live in a place called King City. Their houses cost $5 million.
Oh,
they invest in Miami. And the last scandal the church had, I don't know if they won the case, but most likely I don't think them black people will win the case. They accuse a woman and her daughter accused the father for sexual misconduct of one of the woman's daughter in that church. You could type it in, prayer palace. And right now they become filthy rich of the black Caribbean community. And then,
I will add this, and with caution, there are good churches that do go by looking after their people and speaking the faith and doing the healing. There are some good churches, and I will say this much: the ones that actually do that sort of stuff and try to make their people rise and try to do things for the community and take them out of the homeless and build stuff and give them shelter and provide food and give bikes and do these sort of things, they get persecuted. And they're the ones they'll get bad reports on as well. So while we are talking about this, there is a balance to this, because there are churches out there that are doing it and are struggling because they get bad press, not because they're actually doing bad things, but because they actually want to actually progress and see the progression of our people. And the thing is, when anybody steps up to try and bring the progression of our people in a multitude and lots of people, you will see that they will come against persecution. You will also see that you'll see infiltration. And with that infiltration, there is the same similar tactics of divide and conquer. Let's break this all up by gossiping, by rumors, and by putting out false, or in this thing, fake news. So we have to also balance this up and say, yeah, there are a lot of crooks out there, but while the crooks are doing what they're doing, as always, there are people that are on the up trying to do the best that they can for themselves and their community and have got the right mindset. However, these crooks over the top are giving them a bad light. So people, of course, you go, oh my God, who are listening and going, oh gosh, my church must be doing that as well. And they could just be genuine people. So my advice is obviously be balanced in this. That not every church has got a crook in it, and not every church has got an angel in it. You know, you have to have discernment. That's why we're given the spirit of discernment to be able to discern, hey, what's going on here? My leadership, where is this going? What's it doing for the community? How is it benefiting not just myself, but my wider community? How do they treat the people, the man on the street that hasn't got money? How do they interact? What do they do? What do they provide?
And they don't provide. Our next where they do too in Toronto. And them churches don't give back people nothing from their pocket. None of these churches. What they do, as I told you, they're very close to the to rich people, the richest people.
Yeah,
So the very wealthy vote for the Conservative Party.
Yeah, well, it's not the agenda. It's not the agenda of the wealthy people to see these people rise. They don't want that.
No, what the wealthy church does, in order to how you use the word, you know, these rich people, the tax. So what they do, they give like supermarkets to write out from tax. They give these church leaders.
They pay no tax?
No, they don't pay tax.
Charity.
They give them food to share.
Yes.
Like the big supermarket give them cube vans of food to share. But the church people themselves don't take off the money what they make to give back. So so if you hear a church giving, there is a food bank so place. Might be organized by a church, but then also sometimes the church leaders and them, I think I said that on one program, they catch one. They doesn't share all the food too. So it's a good business.
Let me tell you, in a nutshell, when you go back in history and you see the natural progression of what religion right now today has come to mean for our people, time that we wake up. Because as I said, if you go back in time, and I gave you the 3 big C's, right? The intent behind the imposition of Eurocentric religion on the black man and the woman had nothing to do with the development of an African. It's an extension of colonialism.
Yeah.
We colonize the mind. So you either get your liberation, well, we break the chains. Now we don't, you know, they cannot handcuff us and chain us and like that, sell us to one, you know, they can't do that. That type of slavery. But the other slavery of the mind, mental slavery.
But they have a good target in our community. You see,
of course, because
they have a lot of single women. Single women are the target.
Gentlemen, I would advise both of you, when you get a chance, there's a good audio book, or it's a good book called An Interview with the Devil. It's a fantastic book. I listened to it. I started listening to it. I couldn't believe what I was listening to, but it gave me a great overview as to what is going on in the world today. Interview with the Devil. Most Christians won't read it because it says devil in it, and that's the trick, and that's the code. You put the code in there, you say the word devil. Oh, I'm not reading it. But you read to understand. If you don't understand, know thy enemy, then you're not going to know yourself. Go ahead, please.
I'll tell you something, and for listeners out there, who might be a little bit unnerved by some of the things that I'm saying. I was brought up a Catholic. I was baptized at age 14 in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, keeping the Sabbath. I used to go to church four times a week. You go to church all this Saturday, you go home and eat lunch, then you go back in the evening until sundown. Actually, on Friday, you go in and welcome the Sabbath, you go to church again. On Sunday, we go back to church and sing all night. Then you come home, and Wednesday, in the middle of the week, home day, you go back to church again. I used to be tired of church. I want to go and play cricket. I want to go, you know, but and not only that, they give you the same book to read, all the churches. It is called a conference. The book name was called a quarterly, right? So everybody, you talk about mind control and programming, everybody read the same scripture. We open the Bible, and then we sing the same. It is something that they had a format for it.
Make you a good slave.
Yes, right? And then you say amen. Do you know what amen in Portuguese?
Amen. It's God. Amen. Amen Ra is meant to be.
Exactly. So we tend to, we want to believe, and we love believing. I have graduated to the point where I want to know. Stop telling me what you believe. I want to know. You understand? Everybody is entitled to his beliefs and his opinion. Fine, I don't have a problem with that. you're not entitled to your own fact. Talk to me and let me go back in history and give you facts. And I'm going to show you, if you look at it, last week you talked about the 42 laws of Ma'at. I could show you a lot of stuff that would detail, you would be embarrassed to know where some of the things that you're saying, where it came
from in the first place.
You know where it came from, the real deal.
The real
and
deal.
also,
back. Way before.
I could ask you, why is it we don't have one black angel? You tell me the name of one black angel that you know. Right? But we can go beyond that and talk about the other mythologies and I mean, we have the information right in front of us. We just don't read. We want a pastor to preach. So God have to, God will tell him first. And after he go home the next morning, then he gonna come and preach. No, I don't want that. Tell God, tell me, direct himself. I am not listening to a pastor coming and tell me something else. Catch the Holy Ghost and dance in the spirit. You go and cure corona people. Go and heal the sick. In the nursing home, the front are overcrowded. You have people in emergency sleeping on the concrete outside. Go and cure the corona victims.
Joe Osteen, there was an incident where they had to flood him and he wouldn't open his church doors because of the flooding.
Everybody outside.
Lock him out. And then when the press started getting on Joe Osteen, it was like, oh, hold on. I'll open the doors now because,
Yes. The guy would not tell you how much. Well, if you talk about him being big, you don't want to see TD Jakes' house. Take your days to walk around it. It's so big. I mean, the fraud committed. And then we like to listen. And then we say, hallelujah. We don't read. We don't research. We don't investigate. We don't know our own history, where those things came from. And these guys sing and dance. They practice. They have a mirror. They go to theology school. It's a business. They don't live in the community. Their kids don't go in the same school where your kids go. They rip you off. They put ATM machines in the church to get all your money. And they're going to pray for you to go to paradise. But you have to die first, You have to give them the money. Give them the money. Bring all the tithes in the storehouse. And after you die, you go and drink milk. I need my milk and honey now. Don't wait for me to die. And when I go to let me drink my honey, my milk. Probably I cook up all the oil with it. I don't have to die first. You have a $65 million private jet. You have Bentley, Maybach, and Tesla driving. You're in heaven drinking your milk and honey right now. Well, let me get some too. Why have to die first?
But did you saw on was last year or year before in Detroit? Detroit. You could, if you go on, if you go on YouTube, you will see the video. Members of the church beat the pastor.
Oh, they did that.
They beat him because he bought an expensive. He bought, I think it was a Rolls Royce or some big time car like that, and he lives in a mansion. And they beat him and they tell him they want back their money. And just recently, I saw a video on Facebook where some African beat a pastor.
Yes.
They beat a pastor too.
They chased him. He got away though. He got He ran for his life. They were gonna, but Hudson, when you really look at it, as I said, for those of you hell-bent, have some detractors. I have some folks who passionately follow me, looking to poke holes and all of that. One guy had to block him yesterday on Facebook. He's like, anytime you see Denis Charles, he's up, he's ready. I don't know what is it about me. I'm just an ordinary, regular guy. I'm a nobody. You understand? And he dreams, probably occupy space in his head. Denis Charles.
That's it, Denis Charles.
Whenever he sees me, he's ready. He's a journalist.
Hudson's got one of those as well.
Oh yeah, I meet a couple of them. I block them.
Yeah, man. I
block them.
You guys,
all over the place.
I've got a community of them. I've got a community of them.
Yeah.
A community of them. Yeah. Every time I go,
you will always find them.
I don't know the reason for that. I'm a humble guy. You know, I don't boast and brag about anything. Okay. I do history. I study history, right? And what I know, how I could help, I could impart.
I know what it is. They look at you as an uppity Negro. That's what it is. An uppity Negro, a well-learned Negro. That's what it is. And they don't like that because it embarrasses them. That's what happens. They feel threatened.
But there are some again. There are some of them. There are some again. They arm themselves with knowledge, but they think only them know. And then they cannot share what they know with people in a conversation, so because they're scared. Yeah, they attack you because they think perhaps you know something that they don't know.
Yes, it's either that. It's either
so
that
they feel intimidated.
Or because you're educated, they get threatened. So those are the two reasons why. So it's usually our own that attack us anyway. Always. Yeah. You know, the whole crab in the barrel syndrome. We're trying to progress and move forward, and they try to pull you back down.
That is correct. But
this is how slavery. You know, I think a lot of us actually collabed with the slavery. They were people out there who said, him, and reported and worked with the slave master. So what you're seeing now is what they did back then. The same people.
10 crab in a tin syndrome. I could tell you, you read about the liberation, moving up north, you know, the Underground Railroad, the network to the right, the south. You know, some of these ladies who did that, they used to be armed. They're shooting if they catch you snitching on them. Because if these folks catch them, they're dead. You know what I'm saying? But it would take a Negro, you call it a house Negro, to tell on a, you know, let's say you're planning a breakout. You want to escape, you know?
He'll go tell master.
Is the same old divide and rule, the playbook. They get extra shirt or pants from the master. They make them work. Maybe he gets a ride on the horse, you know? They get a ride on the horse and then he feel important. Oh boy. You
just give them a little something.
A little bit more smoking and just something to eat, you know? But we have been doing that. And if you go back all the way to Africa, it's not something new.
No, it's not.
It is something in us, and I don't know why. But if we were to come together, number one, knowledge is power, right? I have committed myself to the emancipation of our people through economics. Number one. So I arm myself with sufficient knowledge where I could show my people the ropes, how to move from point A to point B. Right? Some will listen, some would not. They would remain right where they are. Fine with me. Okay? But at least, if, let's say, Dr. King and others, the older civil rights folks, if they were here today, we would be in a different situation. Because it was not about robbing the poor, getting rich and buying private jets, and all of that. We are like a herd of sheep in need of a shepherd. And I keep saying it all the time. We need a Moses in our community.
Yeah, but a Moses in our community fails every time, and I'll tell you why. Because you've seen it when they come into the community, people get around them. Well, you've had them. You've had your Malcolm X's. You've had these people in, and what ends up happening? They get killed. They end up put in a coffin. Goodbye. You look at all the various photographs of people looking over at the coffins of these people that are dead.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous. So
you get attacked by your own.
They kill their own.
Yep.
So there has to be. So the best way I believe us moving forward is when you look at the birds fly. I used to think that it was one bird who was the leader and everybody was following. But it's not that. Every bird is a leader. But what happens is one bird gets tired, they drop back, and then another one goes forward.
Yes.
So what you basically have is everybody is accountable and is a leader. And then you can't take out one person, you have to take out a whole nation of people. That's leadership. That's what we need to do. Collective leadership. We all have the same vision. We're all leaders together. Now you can shoot up. We could shoot one Martin Luther King, but if you could, what about 1,000 Martin Luther Kings?
Yes.
2,000 Martin Luther Kings.
Yes. As they say, you make more progress if you put in 1% of your effort and you use 99% of somebody else's. Let's say a group. Yes, you get further than doing it all by yourself. You're going to get tired.
That is how Japan
work. Go ahead.
That is how Japanese studying. I school with Japanese students at George Brown College, and they come to you and they tell you, let us study like a group.
You have to.
And then they tell you, okay, what you learned last night, we're going to meet, and what they learned. And they didn't hide anything.
Yeah.
What they know, they tell you. What do you know?
Even the Chinese do that back home when they work too.
Yeah.
Because we would normally take a bucket of cement or bricks, let's say we're building a house, and one person got it. And you walk over there and you know how they do it. One pick up one brick here, you give it to this one, to the other one. The brick is they don't get tired.
No.
Us, we do it individually. You can pick up a big bucket of whatever and you walk from here, you by yourself alone. God, they hold you back. You know, no, they stand, they pass the block.
They make a chain. They make a human chain.
A chain community. So, as I said, right, I am open, Ingram. I am open to working out a program, economics, finance.
Yes.
Which we're going to talk about that.
Okay, absolutely.
And we will do that. But as a people, it is incumbent upon us to try to know the things we don't know. We have to be open-minded. As I say, God made 3 types of people in the world. One, you have those that make things happen. They are called doers. And then you have others that sit by and watch as things happen. And then the rest of them, they don't even know what happened. You have to make a choice. Would you move right now, especially in the time we live in? 2021 is going to go down as the worst year in human history. We might possibly have a whole bunch of mutations. I'm talking about COVID-19, right? Okay, now the US economy drives the world economy, right? The United States. We are in shit. And then we have political violence. Right now, I think last night they caught one guy going up to DC with a whole bunch of bombs and ammunitions and all of that. So we don't know what is going to happen, if we're going to have a racial, racial riots or a blood bath or whatever. But is very, very, yes, the situation. And then financially, folks fall so far behind in terms of the mortgage and the obligations and all of that. I don't know how they're moving forward. A lot of companies fold.
Yeah.
You talk about Amazon picking up where Walmart disappeared a whole lot of mom and pops. Because Walmart, when you go into Walmart, you buy everything. So people just go there, they get everything. So a lot of folks are the little mom and pop stores on the street. They can't pay rent. No customers. Everybody go to Walmart. Walmart decimated the local economy for regular folks like you and me here. Well, not only in Georgia, right? You have Home Depot doing the same thing too. Now you have Amazon coming online and finishing what Walmart didn't do. So if you add that with globalization, where a lot of companies for profit, they would take their products, they go to China, they transfer technology to the Chinese to make it there, and they pay the Chinese next to nothing. But the Chinese not stupid. You have to join, you have to form an agreement with them. Let's say 49.51%, or whatever it is, right? But you have to transfer the technology on how to make that. 6 months down the road, you can in a store down the street with a different name. They're making it and they're selling it back to the United States cheaper. So what do you think is happening? You cannot really blame China. We brought technology and give it to them. And they say about every 100,000 attorneys that graduate in school here, they study law. You know, you fall, you sleep, they want to sue. You have an accident, they sue you. Call me, you get more money, we sue, right? The Chinese graduate in IT, technology. They graduate engineers instead to copyright you, to hack your computer and get your trade secrets. You can't stop that. So for a blue collar worker, you know, you have children graduating school or hoping to graduate in years to come, depending on how young they are. Where are they getting those jobs? It doesn't look good. The future, you have to start to plan now, invest now. In 2 years, Social Security going to be under heavy manners. By the year 2034, Social Security may not be solvent. I'm talking about the social safety net. Companies now, they don't give you pension. That's gone.
I think there is a plan to have a system in place where everyone gets the same amount of money, regardless from the government. So it's like £1,000 a year or whatever, or a month or whatever it is.
You got to do something because it doesn't look good for a lot of us and the younger kids, our children and grandchildren. It doesn't. So you have to embrace. That's why I keep talking about financial literacy. You got to know what's going on. You got to plan now for days ahead when you get much older.
So
and
Denis,
then,
why is it important to have financial literacy though? Why is it important? Because it's not taught in schools. Why is it important?
Well, the first part of it, your question, it's not going to be taught in school because that remains in the domain of the wealthy few. Remember, the wealthy 1% in this country controls 34.5% of the wealth generated here in America. Top 1%. Then if you add the other 9 behind them to make it the top 10%, they own 74.5% of the wealth generated here in this country. Here the kicker. The bottom 50% only account for 1.1% of the wealth. Those are the people who work. Wealth is not created by working for somebody else. Wealth is created by 2 things. You own, you invest. We don't do that as Black people. So it's an uphill battle for me. I know that.
Yeah.
But I try as hard as I can. I continue to try. Tomorrow I have to go back on that radio station again. Try. I'm getting headways. I could see results. But I need a lot of me. And I want to do something in Grenada too. But we need a front. We need a movement. Get our people away from what the banks have done to us. Depositing. You deposit, how much you get? You deposit your money, how much you get? You get less than 1%. Inflation is beating around 2.5%, 3%. So if you deposit your money in the bank only give you, let's say, 0.055 or 0.075, whatever it is, less than 1%. Inflation is at 2.5%, 3%. Are you making money? You're in a hole because inflation eats away the purchasing power of your money. But our program, we work here years, 40 years, 20 years before we go on Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, we put our money in the bank. We have a raise, we put it in the bank. How much you get? Every year you lose because what the bank is giving you in terms of interest, inflation, wipe that out. Inflation is higher than the interest rate they give you. You're fooling yourself. Leave that money below your mattress because the bank is taking it and lend Donald Trump. They make the millions, he make his millions. Hold on. You understand? Hold on. Okay? It doesn't make sense. You have to invest, 1, where you outpace inflation. 2, where you don't get hammered by taxation. Let me repeat myself. And for those of you listening, take a pen. I don't want to get into notes right now. But the two things that affect us in the Black community, lack of knowledge, yes, but inflation, you got to beat that, taxation. And we're going to get, when we formalize something, I could go into more details and so forth.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm so looking forward to it.
That's right. Go ahead, Hudson.
No. When you talk about Donald Trump, I laugh. I was listening to when you said the bank give it to Donald Trump, I laugh.
Well, of course, that's what they do. You're gonna get you file for bankruptcy 4 times. You become president of the United States. And you and your kid, I mean, you're just walking in a bank and get $400 million. I mean, tell me. And for us as colored people, your credit score has to be as high as the moon, as you're not getting no loan. But I don't get it. But that's for another time.
Mr. Trump. Well, as we closing now, we shouldn't leave him out. What is the future? Because we want to honor. We're going to close in.
Yeah.
1-7. So we could round up on what you think is the future for America with Trump.
Well, let me hear you. You go, and then I'll come.
No, just straight up in the air. You're living in America. I'm living in Canada.
The way I look at it right now, the two things that I look at as a positive for him, he didn't start a new war in the Middle East on his watch. He tried desperately to get the United States forces out of Afghanistan, and he was stopped by the military industrial complex, and also in the Middle East, bring forces home. But the American economy is based on the military, the contractors, Boeing. They make, jets, big companies, missiles and stealth F-35 or whatever, stuff like that, submarines. They employ millions and millions of engineers and the whole supply chain, the military industrial complex. You're going to wreck the economy of the United States, right? So he was stopped. So that wasn't a bad idea. He made a mess of himself with his personality and his style of governance and all of that, and his inability to accept reality or the truth. But those are the two things that he did that I could say, you know what, I support. He tried to reduce forces. When he couldn't get them all out, he said, okay, well, let's draw down and bring off forces here. If the United States were to cut its military budget by 10%, we could build schools in all poor neighborhoods. We could put computers for poor kids to read or to study. We could do a lot. The infrastructure here with bridges and roads crumbling. We could do a lot here. Put money in banking and all of that, where poor folks, our kind of people, could get loan guarantees and so forth. There's a lot we can do, but leave that alone. I'm going to touch also, before I go have a few minutes, on Grenada. We're talking about Kit Mitchell and the same pattern of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You have to remember, it's the people. You develop and empower the people, not your pocketbook, not yourself. You put your son in a big ministerial position behind you, working in your office. He don't know your elbow from his kneecap. It's the people business. The people employ you. So it's the same kind. So we need a broom to sweep the place clean, all the cobwebs. Go.
But basically, what I observe with American people, what they call in left-wing politics, is just a little social democrat changes. For instance, free healthcare. A real conservative American Republican will tell you that's socialism.
For the poor. When it's for the rich, with a tax break, it's not socialism.
No, watch. The Liberal Party in England Or why you have an next one called what? You have a next party in
Labour, Conservative, and Liberal Party.
Right. The Labour Party and the Liberal Party in England, to some Americans, they call that communism.
Yeah, they don't like the C word. They don't like the C word. They don't like communism.
Even in Toronto, some of them see our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as a communist. Or even we have an next party called New Democrat. To Americans, that's communism. For instance, if you go to America and talk to a lot of Americans on the street, they will tell you Bernie Sanders is a communist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how will this new Biden-Harris administration will able to change the mindset of these people?
I will tell you how it will go. Biden will take a seat, and Kamala Harris will run America with an iron fist. Don't say I didn't tell you so.
You have a point. You have a point.
I think she might be the first female president.
She will become the first, but she will run America with an iron fist, and she will do things her way. So the script has already been written.
Biden might be symbolic.
Biden's just to sit down. Biden's going to sit down. Biden sit down.
He's going to delegate responsibility to.
She will take over. She will she will take over. You be guaranteed that woman is your next president of America. Biden is just.
In Atlanta here too, we have another one who really helped, Stacey Abrams. Right, so we have two in Atlanta here that at present I don't think they have any big posts, but if not right now, in the future.
Question: what are your thoughts on Angela Rye?
Remind me of who she is again. This one.
She was. I think she was. She dated a guy called Chance. She's a political sort of correspondent. She's usually on CNN, and she's always in the middle between the two kind of white Caucasian people, and she's always in the middle. And she's always kind of having to come in and get them speaking, saying the correct things, because they're always saying things which are more or less indirectly racist. So she's always in there saying, "I can't believe you said. I can't believe you said that."
She acts like a mediator.
I know about it. Yeah, she
calmed down the
sin.
She doused the flames. But what I can tell you is, even on Fox News, you talk about I take pleasure in looking at Fox News go against the people running the show. It is so glaring what happened, as being. It was set up, it was organized, it was coordinated, and all of that. It was pretty much an overthrow, because I believe they were calling to hang Mr. Pence if they caught him. If they had caught Nancy Pelosi, they
were lynch her.
She was locked up. I mean, because she's not that big, she's not that big. One of those guys, they're strong and they're strapping. Some of them bikers, a lot of them are bikers. And yeah, they will lift her by the hand and just, so she got away.
Nancy got away.
She got away. She was scared. You could see she had a mask in her face, but when she was talking, you could feel, oh Lord. They came that close. They were trying to bang down the door. They came so close. They had guns.
I said to people weeks ago, wait for it, they're going to Washington. And do you know how I knew that? It's because it was already put. Watch The Simpsons. Watch The Simpsons. People laugh at me. Watch The Simpsons. They put these things in place, and they let you. Remember, I told you, they will always tell you what they're going to do before it happens. They have to tell you first, and then it plays out. So it's all a script. They showed you Donald Trump coming down the escalator. Trump is in power. Now they're talking about having a system where you be able to plug your brain into a computer system. So everything, you're plugging your consciousness into a computer. It's coming. It's coming.
Boy,
1984 was the movie I watched, 1984, where all these people, they just took pills. They were on pills. And, you know, when they felt depressed, they take a tablet.
1984. I have an idea about that movie you're talking about. 1984.
Right.
But you know, it's a long time. I can't recall everything now.
Right. Well, they had a ministry. I think they had a ministry of love or ministry or something. And this ministry gave orders, told them to stay at home, do this, do that.
Yeah. 1984. Yeah, I remember.
Right. So the Orwellian, George Orwell, sort of Orwellian.
Yeah. I know.
So have a look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that, because all they're basically telling you is this is our plan, this is our idea, and this is where we're going. So whether you like it or not, this is the new world order. This is our world order. So you have a choice whether you're going to conform to that, and this is what happens if you don't conform to it. So they're just trying to push this system through. And that's what it is. That's what it is. When they talk about a new world order, it's just a new way of looking at these old things that kind of put through. So they've told you what's going to happen. They've told you what's going to happen. They've told you, they've shown you this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. And for those who say, conspiracy theorists, that's a good way to keep people quiet, dismiss people. You're conspiracy theorists. But if this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. Is that a conspiracy theory? Or are you trying to blow me off? And what is science fiction? What is science fiction? What is fiction? What is fact? And who controls the laws? What is fiction and what is fact?
Well, some fiction in the future became facts. Like, okay, for example, was Star Trek or Star? How you call it?
Yeah.
If you look at it, it kind of show you something about what will happen later, and
those are things that they plan. They are working on, and you know, maybe the technology is not 100% there, but that's where they're heading. You know, but
they already have the technology, but they don't tell us about it.
Yeah.
Well, that too. That happens too.
Because when Star Trek was popular, drones wasn't that popular yet. Like drones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because one American general was telling the Trump regime, if you invade Venezuela, it might be possible because that's a huge country. It's more than twice the size of Iraq. Venezuela is more than twice the size of Iraq. With a lot of with a lot of mountains, and you could check it on your map. Yeah, it's two times the size of Iraq.
My dad said to me, Venezuela, because he's with Trinidadians. Venezuela is just a little island.
No, what happened?
I'm like,
what happened? What the European did? Everything is racist. Now the map of the world.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
What they call Europe is very small. But when you watch a world map, Europe look big. Do you know that the Congo, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, is 1/3 the size of the United States? The Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Only the Congo alone.
Yeah, only the Congo. But what they do with us in school, they mess up our mind psychologically when they draw the map of Africa as a kid and they draw the map of Europe. We used to tell Europe that big.
No.
By the time, do you know that England is just little bit bigger than Cuba? England, not France, not Wales and Scotland, and England itself is 53,000 square miles. Cuba is 44,000 square miles. Guyana is bigger than England.
Yes.
What?
Guyana, English Guyana. There is 3 Guyana.
Brazil is bigger than Portugal. I mean, it's just amazing, right?
But you see what they did to us, what they educate us. They didn't educate us to see this place so big.
Let me tell you, the emphasis is to get like working hands, employers, and they pay us a minimum wage, we survive and we work. But it wasn't like to empower us where we became. No, you had Barack Obama becoming president. You know, supposed to be their own big companies, be the head of corporation.
Yeah.
No, that's not our place. With stay in the cotton field, and so it is what it is. But I'm gonna tell you, this is a very good show. It is very and this is something that our kids should listen to.
Make sure you send that show for us, Ollie. Let me spread it.
Yeah, and I want it on the Grenada breadfruit and the others.
I got about 18 places I could send it. Good.
Well, I heard the good news that you just share the show all over the place.
Just send it from here, Ollie. Or send it to Melvin or one. If you don't send it to.
Please let them know they can download the BWTM app, which has got Grenada Matters. So all the shows on Grenada Matters.
Okay.
BWTM online on the Android app.
What you going to do for me now? Just send me Messenger, and then I go take the information and I'm going to.
Also tell them that we're available on Fire Stick, Amazon TV. So if you've got a Fire Stick, BWTM Online, they watched all of this on replay. They can watch it all on Amazon TV. Over and over.
Okay. So as we close now, we're back next week again.
We're back next week. We're back next week.
All right. Keep the vibes going.
Dennis, what you want to say?
All right.
We will talk. I have 6 o'clock coming up.
Yes.
And then I have another Zoom training, financial thing with the company.
Yes.
For a couple of hours. So
okay.
I'm gonna get a quick bite to get something and then prepare. So we will talk and we're gonna formalize something.
Absolutely, we need to do it now, sooner rather than later. All right.
It's a pleasure. All right.
Good. Thank you very much. Everybody,
yeah,
thank you so much for watching Grenada Matters.
Yeah,
Grenada Matters, and we matter.